Here we go, episode 6 of the Fuse Logic podcast. Boy, we're going to head all the way down to Hollywood in Los Angeles to speak to a good friend of mine, an Edmontonian, born and raised, and then he took off at 18 to become this actor, producer, director guy. And, you know, I'm being sort of fun with Wesley. He's a friend of mine, and I could probably take a little bit of that kind of, you know, liberty with him. Wesley Sellick has been in such television shows as Bones, State of Affairs, Castle, Legends, and he's even been a part of the 81st Academy Awards. And I'm going to ask him all about that. Wesley Sellick, welcome to the Fuse Logic podcast.
Thank you. How are you today?
Well, you know what? I'm fantastic. The sun is shining, and as you know, we've got some big Alberta skies from time to time. It's nice. It's been cloudy, and so you know what? Anytime the sun peeks out, it puts people, I think, in really great moods. Now, having said that, here I am talking to you in what is, you know, I mean, forever sunny LA, right?
Sunny and 78. Never changed.
Yeah. Oh man. You know, and I feel so sorry for you, but I know that you do have the ability to come to your home province from time to time and visit us and drop by and feel what real seasons feel like from time to time.
Right.
So let's jump right in. I want to pick right up and talk about. You know, you've got so much talent, Wesley. When somebody reads your resume and they take a look at all the different things that you've done, you can do in terms of skills in the art of acting and dancing and singing and all those kinds of things. There's so many places I could jump right into your resume and your history on, but I'd like to talk about the Academy Awards because, you know, I mean, sure, it's obviously one of the largest viewed shows that ever gets televised, and here you are, you know, having the opportunity to dance and be a part of the performance. Talk to me, lead us up to that point. How did you get that gig?
Well, so it all sort of stemmed when I was in Vegas for 9.5 years. I was a show kid out there and did a bunch of shows up and down the strip. And then I had my agent in Vegas had an office in LA, and I'd sort of been going through some life issues and was toying with moving to LA and getting out of Vegas. And I asked for a meeting with the LA rep, and so my Vegas agent set it up, and I met with the LA rep, and he was very firm, and he was like, you know, we're absolutely not interested in representing you. And then he was like, oh, wait, no, there's an audition on Thursday. If you book the audition, we'll represent you for the contract, and we'll take you on as a client. And I was like, okay, no pressure at all here, you know. And I was praying for, like, oh, it's a music video or it's a print ad or something, like, attainable to get, you know? And I was like, great, what's the audition for? And he was like, well, it's a Wayans Brothers movie. And I was like, you're kidding me, right? He was like, no, it's Thursday. So lo and behold, I go to this audition and I end up booking it, and he represents me. So I ended up shooting the movie. That quite a few contacts there during the filming of the film. And a lot of the same people were involved in the Oscars, which I went and auditioned for shortly after we wrapped the movie. So I auditioned for the Oscars, and it was quite a sizable cast. I mean, there were 40 of us, 20 male, 20 female, but they split it by coast as well. So 10 males were from LA, 10 males were from New York, 10 females, and vice versa, right, for the females. So it was a week and a half long rehearsal process for us. And then here's a little tidbit of information about the Oscars that people don't know, but we tape in the morning without an audience, and everybody wins during the taping. And then we do a live show as well. So in case a satellite goes down, they have something to cut to.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, so that they'll, if they lose a satellite feed, it's not like the show goes down. They'll just jump to what we shot in the morning until they fix it, and then they'll go back to live. So
Well, that's really cool. I mean, that is actually a really cool, behind the scenes tidbit. Tell me about the
yeah.
pressure. I mean, obviously, being on stage and live theater as a key part of your background. Obviously,
hmm
you're familiar and comfortable with being on stage. But tell me about maybe any of the pressure you may have felt about trying to get that gig in general.
Um, I think because I've never been in a situation where there were that few spots with that many people auditioning. Like they kept making cuts, and I was still there, and I almost couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, how is it? How am I still here right now? And I'm seeing like people from like So You Think You Can Dance getting cut, and I was like, what are these people like seeing the same? I just didn't understand. Um, And then at the end, they took our measurements, and my agent called me the next day, and he was like, "All right, well, you're booked. You start rehearsals on Monday." I was like, "Really?" I was like, "Really? You sure? Calling the right person?" Um, yeah, it was very, very surreal. Just because there were probably 600 people there, and they were looking for 10.
Wow. That's incredible odds, man, when you think about it.
hmm
And
Yeah.
obviously, it's such a an important show every year in your industry, obviously, and anybody who likes watching movies of any sort and so on. So it's really just what an honor to be a part of that event and on sort of, I guess, any level, but I mean to actually get stage time and so on. So tell me about when you're actually performing and so on, and you're doing the job that you've been contracted to do and everything. And then tell me about a surreal moment that you had after finding out that you're going to be a part of the cast, and sort of during that process. What are some of the interesting things you could tell us about just that part of it?
Yeah. So you're sort of, during the audition process, you're on a need to know basis. Um, so we know it's for the Oscar. Like going into the audition, we knew it was for the Oscars, and we knew Hugh Jackman was hosting that year, and that's pretty much all we knew. We were like, oh, okay, so it'll probably be some sort of number that Hugh may or may not be a part of. Um, and then as soon as you book it, it's disclosed who's directing the piece, who else is in it. Um, and it was this big tribute to the musical, because there was a lot of musicals that with Hairspray and Chicago remade. All of these musicals were getting, Mamma Mia was getting reborn. Um, so it was sort of a big throw out to that. Um, and then we found out who the cast was, and we were like, wow, like Zac Efron was in the cast, Beyonce was in the cast, Hugh, of course, was there, Vanessa Hudgens. So it was just like it was the who's who of the industry that year. Um, my personal freak out moment was, it was my world's favorite director was actually directing us, which is Baz Luhrmann. Um, he did Romeo and Juliet. He did Great Gatsby. Um, he's like, to me, he's like the director's, god. He's just unbelievable. So working with him for 2.5 weeks was just, it is surreal, and Hugh couldn't be a nicer human being, Um, so it was neat to see Baz work and just talk to Hugh.
Yeah. I mean, that would be, really cool in general. And I mean, especially getting to work with any directors being considered for that particular job, I think would be excellent. And I I'm sure that there's no doubt that you would probably have one or more, things that you picked up and learned because you're a director yourself. What was one of the
Yeah.
things that you picked up from him that you just go, wow, man, that's just awesome?
He always had a camera with him. Um, and it's the first director that I've ever seen do that. But he always had this little prosumer camcorder with him to check what lenses he wanted to be on. So he would have like ladders scattered in the corner, and he would like, while we were doing the number, he'd like run up this 12-step ladder with his camera. And I'm like, someone hold the ladder. He's going to die. Like, he's crazy. He's certifiably nuts, but he just wanted to make sure that every single shot was perfect, so he's setting 6 different camera lenses, just so he knows exactly what every frame is going to look like. So no matter what no matter what camera they decide to cut to at any given time, he knows exactly how perfect it's going to look.
Right.
It was the way his mind thinks is, it's no wonder he gets the quality out of his work that he does. He's just, nothing goes unnoticed for him. He's phenomenal.
Really specific and a lot of attention to detail.
Yeah. There are no mistakes with him. Yeah, it's everything is done for a specific reason, and he sees the vision, and you just trust him.
Right. So when you've completed the job, and maybe you're going to at some point get a chance to sit down and watch the show, maybe like an everyday viewer. Did you happen to do that, or do you have a tough time watching yourself on screen?
I don't watch a frame of myself.
That doesn't surprise me.
I can't do it. It's nauseating for me.
You're probably not the only one in your profession that has that kind of.
It's funny. Like, a lot of the actors that I really respect feel the same way. They can't do it.
So let's talk about that. That is a great segue right into, I guess, the mental toughness that you have to be, an actor, a singer, a dancer, and the internal dialogue that goes on, and the constant battle within, right? Tell me a little bit about, how maybe you deal with that as a professional, and just maybe, I don't know, your process to help you overcome some of these things.
I mean, for me, especially with regards to watching, I think there's really only 3 outcomes from watching yourself. Speaking as an actor now, step 1, outcome 1 would be you absolutely despise the editor or director, and you never want to work with them again. Or number 2, you'll see something that you've done that you didn't necessarily like, and you'll overcompensate on your next project and fall completely flat. Or 3, in the absolute worst case thing that could possibly happen, is you watch it and go, yeah, that was pretty good. Because then you stop working, and you stop pushing, and you start overextending what you think you're personally capable of, and I think that's just suicide for an actor. We have to keep pushing our boundaries and keep training and keep learning. You're never finished.
It's always a work in progress in terms of skill development.
Always, yeah.
So when you're, right now, let's just get up to, I'd like to go back into, again, some other projects that you've had, but before we do that, let's talk about your hit show right now, This Is Us. And, this was a bit of a surprise. We had touched base there, and you were actually scheduled to be on another show. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I had done a season of a Criminal Minds spinoff called Beyond Borders, and we were scheduled to come back, and my director of photography that I work with a lot We've been together for about 3 years now. He called me and he was like, "So I'm not doing Beyond Borders this season." And I was like, "Okay." And he was like, "I'm doing a new NBC show and I want to take you with me." And I was like, "Okay, what is it?" You know, and we've been like the kings of 1 hour drama, you know? He was like, "Well, it's a dramedy." And I was like, "Wow, you're doing a single camera dramedy." Okay. And he was like, "It's really good. Very, 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 very successful writer. Dan Fogelman is the writer on it. He came from Disney, so he wrote Cars and Cars 1 and 2, along with a couple other huge Disney films. And then most recently, he did Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, which
That's
I
a
thought
good
was
movie.
brilliant.
I like that
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah. So as soon as he said Whiskey Tango, I was like, okay, I'm in. I'll leave Criminal Minds, you know? So the last few shows I've been on they've been good. They haven't been exceptional, you know? But by day 3 of shooting This Is Us, I knew we had something special. You know, and it's not that any of the actors are insanely well known. You know, a couple of them have a smaller following, but the writing has been phenomenal. The acting has been just outstanding, and we knew as long as the audience would give this a chance, we would do okay. And nobody expected that it would have this kind of pull. We think it deserves it, but the numbers are just, we couldn't be more happy or proud of the show. You know, and the fact that the audience is receiving it as massively as they are is just, it's very humbling, you know?
Well, I'll tell you 2 things. One is that I remember you telling me that you were going to leave Criminal Minds, and we didn't get into specifics. We didn't talk long. And I thought, wow, really? Because, I mean, Criminal Minds as a franchise is a well-known franchise of shows. And I knew that Beyond Borders was a relatively new spin-off of that. And I thought, boy,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got to have something huge coming to be, maybe jumping from that show onto something else, or just something maybe that better suited your, where you wanted to go with your career. So either way, I thought, wow, okay, that's a major move. And then,
yeah, it's funny. My family thought I was crazy. My girlfriend, I think at one point wanted to leave me. She was just like, "You are insane. Are you sure you know what you're doing?" And I was like, "No, I have no idea if this is the right choice. I think it might be. But I don't know. Like, I won't know for 4 months if this was the right move, you know?" And after episode 1 aired, it was game over, you know? I was like, I'll be on this show as long as I want to stay on it, because there's no way they're canceling this.
Yeah.
Not with these numbers, you know?
Well, I remember you promoting, obviously the premiere, and so we tuned in, and I was watching online. I do the 2-screen thing, and I've been I present on social TV years ago about how there's the viewer was now going to be a 2-screen viewer, and so here I am doing the 2-screen thing, and I'm watching online and Twitter and watching it, how it's reacting to this, and the hashtags, and the actors are out there, and they're talking and so on and so forth, and I just thought, man, you know what? I'll tell you, I could just feel the momentum of this and the reactions that were happening in real time versus what was going on in the show. And, I mean, that's commonplace today with just about any show that has any level of following. You get audience reaction in real time. And so I had a real good sense as it was happening that, wow, there was not only was it a really great episode and show to enjoy, but you got a sense that people were really digging it, and that it looked like you were on a winner for sure.
Yeah, and it started with the trailer, before we even went to work on episode 1, I wanted to say the trailer had 80 million views. So we knew that people were excited for it. And, you know, the problem is when you have expectations that are that high, it's really hard to meet them. It's almost impossible. And yet week after week, we exceed the expectations. It's, you know, I couldn't be more indebted to Dan, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, several beers or whatever it is, you know, that you owe that guy. That's for sure. So let's talk a little bit about your specific role on set, what they have you sort of doing, and what you find yourself up against, and maybe let the audience know a bit about your schedule generally when you're shooting.
Sure. So we do we generally do Monday to Friday. Once in a while, we did just finish a 12-day run where we went Monday through to the following Friday. We shot Saturday and Sunday as well. There's a lot of reshoots. There's a lot of rewrites. So often we'll shoot something. It'll get into the edit bay and they'll be like, that didn't work. We need to go back and reshoot that scene. So unfortunately that work isn't scheduled and that will fall on a weekend, you know, so that means we're working 7 days a week. Our general work day, we're a very fast show. It's 100% handheld, which speeds things along as well. And because the crew's been together for 3 years, we just work efficiently. So our average work day is 11 to 12 hours. Whereas on Beyond Borders, our average work day was about 13 and a half to 14 and a half hours. So we're working less, which, you know, sucks on the pocketbook, but, you know, at least we're getting a little bit of sleep. You know, Beyond Criminal Minds was killing me. It was absolutely killing me. So this show physically, mentally is a lot less stressful. Emotionally, it's much more though, you know, because the demand is so high.
It's a different type of show altogether.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. So yeah, basically my alarm goes off every morning at 3:30 and I'm at Paramount by 5 a.m. and, you know, I get to go home around 7 o'clock at night and go straight to bed and wait for my alarm clock to go off at 3 a.m. again, you know?
Yeah. Actually, oddly enough, I do know recently I've been actually keeping somewhat similar hours, to be honest with you. So I won't go into that, but yeah, I actually do a little bit know at least the time. I don't actually have to go to the Paramount, you know, theater every morning or a Paramount, you know, studio. But that's the lucky thing that you get to do. So tell me about some of the things that you've done on the show at this point.
So I was in episode 4. I had a small little role. Played an actor that was auditioning for a role that Justin ended up getting in the show. So Justin plays a character named Kevin who walked off of a major sitcom and decided to move to New York and do theater. And in the theater, I was auditioning for the same role as Justin was. So you'll see me on screen on episode 4. Day-to-day work for me is I double Milo, Justin, and Chris Sullivan. So, and then I'll do all of the off-camera dialogue for all the actors. So basically the way that works is I'm much cheaper than bringing Justin in on a day off. You know, I don't make near as much as Justin. So if he's in a scene, but they really don't need to shoot him, they just need like his arm or something and his words, all that will be me. And then we'll shoot the reverse and catch catch his stuff on another day when he's already working.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. So it keeps you obviously on top of things because you're doubling for. I'm sorry, how many actors was it? 3 or 4 there?
3.
3.
Yeah. 3.
So you're having to pay attention to sort of all of their roles and what they're having to do per episode, which keeps you probably pretty clued in.
It does. Yeah. I mean, it's nice because now other than weekends, I don't have a ton of time to take a bunch of class. So it does keep my skills sharpened, you know?
Mm-hmm. As an actor in Hollywood, now you're on this great show, and you spoke earlier about not wanting to become complacent and always wanting to continually hone your craft. What would you say has been, maybe one of the largest breakthroughs you've had in that process that has served you very well, say on this particular show, This Is Us, but maybe in other recent work as well, this breakthrough through your process that's just helped you overcome some barriers?
Honestly, this may sound weird, but it's really been learning as much as I can about camera. Knowing exactly what it means when A camera is on a 14 mil and B camera is on a 50 mil, and knowing what that represents to what I'm able to do with my body, with my face, with any sort of movement that I may or may not be making, because a camera lens is, if you're on a 14 mil, which is a really, really wide shot, you can do a lot more. If you're on 150 mil, it's super tight. And if you move your head goes off the screen. So it's been really, I've been taking a lot of time to familiarize myself with cameras, and it eases up the tension of like, I know exactly what the frame looks like, and now it's just up to me to be able to work within those confinements. Does that make sense?
It does, actually, because I mean, my very simplistic mind thinking of that, it seems to me that if you understand the cameras that you're being shot on, then you can modify your presentation of the character in such a way so that maybe the crew doesn't have to reshoot it because you moved your head or you did something a little weird, and
right
now it's like, oh, wait a minute, cut, let's do that again.
Right. Yeah. I find that I'm working much more efficiently.
Right. I suppose that directors like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, the producers love it.
Yeah, less money spent.
If you can be a one-take actor and save them a ton of money, I mean, they love it.
So what has been the living down in LA, moving there from Vegas? You still have a lot of ties in Vegas, obviously, with your long history there of being on stage and theater and so on. What is, I guess in terms of the Hollywood circles and the sort of some of the circles that you hang out with and so on, who would you say is maybe one of your really good friends that has, you mentioned one earlier, but, I'm sure you have many more than just one, Wesley, in terms of good friends, but, has there been somebody there for you that has helped you through some difficult times in your career to just kind of help you overcome maybe, some self-doubt or whether you take the risk or not, or those kinds of things?
Gosh, there's been, I mean, first is my crew, these 113 guys that we've been digging ditches together with for 3 years. I've never felt more support ever in my life than from this crew. And we would all jump off a bridge for each other. There's just so much trust and respect there for everybody. As far as like who taught me the most to not self-doubt and to not be afraid to to do something which some people might find silly if they sort of self-evaluated. Probably Sean Bean. Working with Sean for 8 months, he played pretty much everything the opposite of what a safe actor would do. You know, I'll never forget the first day I worked with him. He was on his knees. He's got his hands behind his head, and a bad guy has a Glock at the back of his head. And Sean just started to laugh. And I was like, wow, you chose laughter. When the natural thing to do would be to show fear. In that scene, you chose to laugh. And it was brilliant. You know, and we cut that scene, and I was like, there's no question why you are where you are in your career. I was like, you don't play safe. And he was like, never, mate, never. No.
What project was this on?
It was on Legends.
Ah, okay. And
yeah,
that's interesting. I mean, obviously it would be inspiring to see someone else commit in that way and then go, wow, maybe I could try that. Or, that is interesting in terms of, as you said, what you'd expect.
Yeah, it just, I don't like a boring actor. I don't, what I don't want to see is, and there's a couple people that do this, and it's not to call them bad, but they're very predictable, where you could read a screenplay and somebody say, I don't want to badmouth anybody, but so-and-so, whatever, Matt Damon is playing this character, and you don't need to see the movie because you know exactly what he's going to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't like.
Right. And I'm sure you're trying to pick somebody, and not necessarily pick on Matt Damon, but yeah, predictable.
Right. Yeah. Whereas if you have somebody like Johnny Depp, like, who reads 120 pages of Pirates of the Caribbean and comes out with Jack Sparrow?
Yeah.
Who makes that choice and goes, I'm just going to roll with it? And Disney fired him 5 times from that role. And he was like, I'm not changing it. If you don't like it, fire me. But, I'm not, if you're asking me to change, the answer is no. This is the way I'm going to do it, and it made $1 billion.
Yeah, such conviction to that process, and how about your belief in yourself and knowing what's right for that particular role? Because I got to tell you, I mean, there's no other Jack Sparrow I could possibly fathom now, other than how Johnny Depp plays it.
Yeah, and and then the studio hated him. They were like, they just absolutely despised it. But that will go down as one of the most cinematic characters of all time.
It's unbelievable, though. I mean, you gotta hand it to a guy like Johnny Depp in that particular case, because if Walter Schwabe walks in and pulls that with Jack Sparrow, gets fired by Disney, I'm out of there, right? I mean, they're not calling me back, and so I mean, they'll play they'll play that B roll and laugh as I leave, but they would have just said, "What are you doing?" And right. There you go. That's a fantastic story. So tell me a little bit about your current movie projects. What have you got on the go regarding movies?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I've got a production company because apparently I've those 2 free hours a day, I need to fill those. So I've got my company's called Sing and Dance Productions, and we don't categorize ourselves like Blumhouse is horror, and they'll only ever do horror, and that's what they do. What my company strives to do is story. So we don't focus on a genre; we focus on story. Um, anything that is relevant, anything that will change the viewer, anything that will. I'm a big crier. I love crying. So anything that will draw tears, I tend to really gear towards. Um, we have a anti-bullying family film called Bare Knuckle Days that's in development right now. Um, it's starring Jackson Nickel. He's the little boy from Bad Grandpa with Johnny Knoxville.
Wow, that's cool.
So that's yeah. It's a really really great script. I didn't write it, so it's really good. So that's sort of my live action family film, and it's sort of like a throwback film. I miss the. I grew up with Goonies and like these kind of children's film, and my girlfriend has 2 children, and everything is animation now, which I think is great. But they don't have a live action sort of film that they can watch together as a family. So I wanted to sort of recreate that from my childhood to give to them, you know?
Yeah, that's actually a great. It's a great statement because you're right. I mean, I have 4 girls now, and it's the exact same thing. It's movie night. What are we going to watch together that everybody ages 9, 7, 8, 9, all the way up to preteens?
Yeah.
What can they watch? That's not an animated feature.
Right.
So.
Yeah, like I love The Secret Life of Pets and Big Hero 6. I love these, but it doesn't get to show the kids how to be kids because there's still that disconnect of it's an animation, it's not a person, right? The stories are fantastic and they're beautiful and they're compelling, but I think there's still that disconnect.
Right. So now, Bare Knuckle Days. When do you expect that to be out?
Gosh, that is such the $7 million question, isn't it? I see it as a Christmas movie. We'll see. I mean, my hiatus is really, really, really. It just got very busy. That's not to say that This Is Us wouldn't accommodate my schedule and let me come in mid-season if I was doing my own thing.
Right.
So I would love to do it this spring, potentially, but we're shy a little bit of funding, just a little bit. So trying to raise the last $700,000.
Well, you never know. Maybe there's somebody listening to the Fuse Logic podcast that wants to get into the movie business and looks you up. Who knows?
If you want to get into the movie business and want to make it equity investment,
away we go. Yeah. So, Wesley, I want to have one more question for you before I let you go. And I know it's,
sure.
There's so much that, again, we could talk all day on this particular general subject matter. I love movies and always have and stuff. So, but when you think back, and I want you to future cast for a moment, and you look back on your career, and you're now thinking that you're gonna hang him up. You're not gonna sing, dance, and act, and produce and direct anymore. You're just really wanting to rest now. And you look back on your legacy, that is your career. What kind of legacy do you want to leave?
I want to affect people. I'm not looking for notoriety. I'm not looking for fiscal, the outlandish fiscal benefit. For me, at the end of the day, if one person comes up to me and says, man, I saw this film that you were in and you played a drug addict and I was on drugs and it forced me to get help because I saw myself in you, then I've done my job.
Yeah.
I think we have, because we can touch so many millions of people through our work, we have a responsibility to do work that really touches our audience in a positive light. So any sort of change that I could make in any sort of human that's going through a bad stretch or having a hard time or anything like that, if my work can help them through that, then I've done my job.
There is a great saying that I had just come across yesterday. Apparently, Melinda Gates, Bill Gates' wife,
yeah,
her mom had told her something to the effect that if in your life you're able, by what you do, you're able to help another life breathe a little easier because of your efforts, then that is the definition of success.
Yeah, I agree.
And my friend, what you just said is exactly that. So, that's really a wonderful sentiment. It's a perfect way to end our chat today. Wesley Sellick, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your very little time that you have off from This Is Us and your busy career to speak with us on the Fuse Logic podcast. It's been a real blast. It's a real pleasure to hear some of the stories that you've told us today, and I know there are many more. So hopefully maybe at some point in the future we can have you back on the show somewhere down the road and share even some more stories.
Anytime.
Well, that was Wesley Sellick, the actor, the friend, the singer, dancer who wants to affect lives through his work, calling us and talking to us from L.A. On a little bit of a break over the Thanksgiving weekend here in the U.S., working on This Is Us. And, Wesley is just such a giving human being and personality, and he's so giving of his time. And I really do thank him for his time and his insights and his wisdoms as it relates to being a hardworking Hollywood actor. And he's not always getting the screen time on every project that he ever does, but he's there making contributions in all sorts of ways as part of a larger crew, as he's mentioned. And it was really just a real pleasure to have him on the show today.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Wesley. Appreciate it, my friend. So what are the things that I've learned from this interview with Wesley Sellick? Obviously, one of the most important things I think he said was never give up and never, always keep trying to perfect what it is you're doing. He doesn't watch himself after all of his performances, which is, I find, actually oddly relatable, because whenever I do go on television, maybe commenting in something in the news or on Alberta Primetime or some other role, and I don't mean role as in acting, although, hey, you never know. I don't actually watch it. I it freaks me out. I don't mind being on camera and saying what I say, but I just can't sit there and watch it afterwards. So I can completely relate. Although, Wesley's a professional, he gets paid to do what he does. And there are many other professionals in this world that do the same thing and don't watch themselves either. But I think the reason why that he does it because he just doesn't want to affect the next performance, which that's very cool to me. So many things that we could have talked about in terms of his career, and I do hope to have him on the show again at some point down the road. And certainly if you've got questions for Wesley, please let us know. All you have to do is head to Facebook and look up Fused Logic on our Facebook fan page and ask a question there. Every episode I like to talk about the books that I'm reading. This particular week we're talking about the book that is called The Thank You Economy, written by Gary Vaynerchuk. Now, Gary, you know what? If you haven't come across Gary's work, you need to do that. Gary is a no BS kind of guy. He's probably one of the hardest working guys in digital media. Didn't start out that way. He was one of the hardest working kids selling hockey cards when he was a young kid, which I can completely appreciate. He's built up a massive company in terms of Vaynerchuk Media, or Vayner Media, I guess, is the formal name. But, Gary is all over the world. He's well known and well respected, speaks on social media and digital marketing like crazy. And you know what? Oddly enough, a lot of what Gary shares every single day, in my opinion, is really just straightforward logic and in some respects obvious. And it's not because I'm trying to take anything away from Gary, but It's just, work hard, put your customer at the center of everything you do. Respond. And this is exactly how I came to interact with Gary. It was because I wrote a blog post about his first book, Crush It. And Gary jumped on and responded on the blog. And I mean, come on, how many blogs are out there mentioning Gary Vaynerchuk? So here comes the guy, dropping a comment on my blog, so at fuselogic.com. It was actually very, very cool. And ever since then, we like to interact loosely online and Twitter and so on. But you know what? At Gary V is his Twitter account. Go check him out. Pick up The Thank You Economy. It's the second time I'm reading it, and it's a really great refresher of how to put the customer first. I'd like to thank my client, Carrie Lynn Holland, who, by the way, is actually going to be a future guest on the show. And I'm actually excited to have, this opportunity to speak to Carrie Lynn Holland about her life in real estate, and also as a wife and as a mom, and just a real successful entrepreneur. So I'm at this case, I'm just really appreciative of her past business and the work that we've done in the past with Fused Logic. Head to fuselogic.com and check out the podcast button. That's where all of our episodes are. And as you listen to our episodes, you're going to hear some really cool music. And all of this show is produced by Thomas at Octavo Productions. Thomas is the guy who keeps me on the straight and narrow in terms of the show and the music and the timing and all of that kind of thing, the great editing he does. So check out his website, Octavo Productions. And if you do have a moment, head to newbeginningsmexico.org and make a donation there today. You're going to love the story. There's so many people down there. I just got back recently from volunteering down there with my wife, Erica. And as you've heard in other episodes, just a really great cause to support. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so very much. I'm your host, Walter Schwabe. Thank you for listening to the Fused Logic podcast. Once again, this has been episode 6 with Wesley Sellick. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, you're made to thrive.
Fused Logic. Analytics and engagement evolved.